What's up, everyone? Welcome to our Small Group Leaders podcast, where we help you to lead your small group. My name is Pastor Kalae, and I'm joined by the legend himself, Mr. Jerrick Riveral. If you haven't heard him preach, you are definitely missing out. He's one of my favorite preachers on staff. Don't tell anyone.
What's up, everyone?
But we are going to help you practically get ready for your small group this week. Before we do that, we want to give you a quick update that we are still continuing to receive gifts for our Adopt an Ohana. If you want more information, you can go to our website, pearlside.org/cares. And we want to thank you for your continued generosity as a church, always looking for ways to sow into the community. And this is a practical way for us to be the hands and feet of Jesus. So thank you for your generosity. And happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Happy Thanksgiving.
And we're wrapping up our series Right on the Money.
Come on.
And the whole preference of this series is to remind us that everything we have comes from God.
Yeah.
And everything that we are given is for His glory. And the way I've been thinking about this series is that we cannot have a right view of God if we have a wrong view of money. And so we're wrapping up this series just to kind of give us a theme of what we were trying to do is to communicate stewardship and trusting God for everything that we have in our life. And what a great way for us to end the series and the season in the attitude of gratitude when we're talking about Thanksgiving. And so let me read our main thought, and we can get into this discussion. As we conclude the series Right on the Money, we're reminded that biblical stewardship is ultimately worship. We have everything we have comes from God, and everything we give is for God. And Psalms 100 encourages us that Thanksgiving is the doorway into God's presence. Gratitude is the posture that turns financial stewardship into joyful surrender. We don't wait for a feeling to be thankful. This is the key. It is a spiritual practice that shapes our heart to see God clearly. So true generosity flows from a heart that recognizes God's goodness, faithfulness, and grace, responding with worship in all aspects of life. And a real fun fact, Jerrick, Psalms 100 was in a poster that was on the wall of the church that I grew up with.
Wow.
And it said, enter into his gates with thanksgiving. And so I was always reminded about that verse. Every Sunday that I would go into church, I would see that verse on the wall. And the thought that I have today is that, you know, when we got passwords and things to log into our account, if we really want the password into God's presence, that password would be thank you.
Oh, wow.
Thank you, God.
Good.
And that's what we're talking about today. It's just the attitude of gratitude, a posture of thanksgiving that really shapes everything that we do. So why don't you walk through us some of the points here from this verse?
Yeah, so we have gratitude is a posture of worship. The text says, worship the Lord with gladness, come before him with joyful songs. And again, worship begins with remembering God's goodness. Gratitude shifts our focus from what we lack to who God is. I love that. A thankful heart strengthens trust and fuels obedience. Everything we have comes from God. The text says, know that the Lord is God, and it is he who made us, and we are his. We belong to him. Our lives and resources are his. Stewardship starts with identity. We are his people under his care. And of course, gratitude grows when we remember we are not self-made. And Thanksgiving is the way that we approach God. That's the third point. Enter his gates with thanksgiving. Thankfulness prepares our hearts to worship and obey. Gratitude unlocks peace and keeps our hearts soft before God. And when we recognize God's gifts, surrender becomes joyful.
Yeah.
And then lastly, God's goodness is constant and not conditional. The text says, furthermore, for the Lord is good, and his faithfulness continues through all generations, which means that God's character doesn't shift with our circumstances. Gratitude is rooted in his goodness, not our feelings, and we can trust God, remembering that he has a good track record throughout history.
And so you might have been noticing that we've been categorizing our discussion questions into three categories. It's reflect, reframe, and respond. We want people to reflect about what we just shared as far as the main thought, or even just the weekend sermon, what was standing out to them. And so reflection about that, and then reframing, basically looking at how we currently see our lives and our situation and making sure that it aligns with God's word and his truth. And then responding, looking for practical ways that we can apply what we just learned to our life to live it out in a simple and tangible way. And so in reflection, Jerrick, you know, we were talking about this earlier. What is the one thing that you're looking forward to in leading a small group based on this discussion?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the fact that, you know, we think we understand as leaders that small group is a safe place for us to kind of come with our burdens and our complaints. But I'm also grateful for this discussion because it kind of opens up the door for us to practice gratitude, because sometimes that's not easy to do. We're considering the things that we walk through in life. And I know I'm a huge complainer in groups. Sometimes I'll come with honest and raw feelings about how I'm feeling. I think it's a safe place, but also to cultivate an environment where we can just practice gratitude. And it's such a powerful practice. I think an underrated value for Christians to practice gratitude. And again, I think this idea of gratitude helps to shift our focus back onto God and the things that He has done, but also the things that He is currently doing, even when we're living in uncertainty. I think that's such a powerful thing for us to do.
So if you wanted to know as a small group leaders what the goal of this discussion would be is to create a moment for everyone to pause and to reflect about something that they can be thankful for. The one thing that I realize about gratitude is that sometimes we think it in our mind, but we need to take the next step to verbalize it with our lips. And so we want to create moments and opportunities for people in the midst of busyness and reminding them that Thanksgiving is not just a holiday where we eat, but it's a lifestyle and a posture that God is inviting us to as believers. And so one of the questions that we were talking about earlier is that, you know, a lot of people, they're going to come with honest mindset. They might be a little negative based on what they've been going through and experiencing in this season. So, you know, Jerrick, how would you reframe someone in that moment where they come with negativity and then they're just venting in group? How would you as a leader navigate that moment?
I think definitely affirm their honesty and thank them for being honest, but also just maybe just trying to, force, just critical thinking, like how has God been good to you? What is one thing that you can be grateful for in this situation? Even if not that, maybe having them pause to maybe think and consider how God has been good to you, how God has been faithful in the past. Because I found that, reflecting on past victories help us to, persevere through our present struggles, right? And so giving them space and time and kind of course correcting the discussion in that way to just have them pause and maybe think a little bit through. And then also have other people share, because maybe other people sharing their the things that they're grateful for might provoke them to be, grateful for other things as well.
So one of the phrases that I say as a leader when these moments come about is just, hey, thank you for your honesty, man. I appreciate you having the courage to share that. But in the midst of everything that you're going through, is there one thing that you can think about right now? Because we're going to come back to you. One thing that we're going to think about right now that you can still have an attitude of gratitude in, and then have somebody else share, because sometimes they just need other examples from people's lives to have a reminder, or like, I have that. I can be thankful for that, or I can be thankful for this situation. And so I would always call it redirecting them. Like they just say, appreciate your honesty, but we're going to redirect your thinking, because we don't want people to stay there in that negativity. That's what small group is for them to be reframed into seeing things through the lens of God and His Word and His truth. And so as small group leaders, we want to definitely approach that with wisdom and with grace. But what are some other things that you've noticed in leading small groups that can help contribute to a posture of gratitude?
As far as practical things that we can do, obviously, starting prayer with Thanksgiving. I think coming in that way, just being grateful, coming to God with a grateful heart, it kind of alleviates all the other things that might be happening in a person's life, and so kind of redirecting their thinking to pause, exercise this on a day-to-day basis, because things happen in life that cause us to grow discontent or get frustrated in life. And so I think that's a powerful thing, is just encouraging them to approach God in prayer with Thanksgiving. That's good. I think that's a very key thing that we can, or practical thing that we can encourage other people to do.
And fun fact, we will have a moment in the prayer points for people to take a pause to pray and thank God for something specific. But we do have about 7 questions here that we are given. That doesn't mean you have to go through all 7 questions. We just want to give you opportunities as leaders to discern what question will best create conversation within the small group. So don't feel pressured to do all 7, because if you do, you might be there to 10 o'clock at night. Small groups are going to be 3 hours long, and we definitely don't want that to happen. Not that we're against that, but we want to honor people's time. And so in the midst of all of these 7 questions, we want to give you the wisdom as leaders to think about what would create better conversations in your small group. I think one of the questions here that I really like is this question in Reframe. Who in your life models a heart of gratitude, and what can you learn from them? Because so often people are just consumed with what they're going through and what they're experiencing. So this question is designed to get them to think about someone else as an example and as a model. And that will force them to think about why they like that person. What does that person do that creates gratitude in their life? And how can we learn from them? And so I think that's a great question to do what you just talked about. We talked about earlier, is to get people to think about themselves less and about God and others more. So that's another great question for us. And then even just for us, Jerrick, what is one thing that you have incorporated into your life to lead you to being more thankful?
Uh, Obviously, I mean, we're talking about it, taking intentional time to pause because life is so fast and we're so quick to move on to the next thing and the next thing that it's hard to be grateful. And the next thing you know, you miss an opportunity to thank God for something that He's done because you're already on to the next thing. But I feel like Thanksgiving, it reinforces His heart for God and to continue to pursue Him with all of our heart. So
that's good. A practical thing for me that I've incorporated into my life. And so every night I have a reminder that goes off at 9 p.m. And I call it my gratitude reminder. And so as I'm getting ready to sleep, the last thing that I want to have on my mind is a moment where I can think about two things that happened in the day that I can be thankful for. And it could be something as small as my son Judah, he just listened today. You know, he was obedient. Or as big as, oh, God opened this tremendous door. And so it's a moment to reflect because I don't want to go to bed grumbling.
Yeah.
I want to go to bed with gratitude so that I can wake up being grateful in the morning. And so these things are just an opportunity for us to talk about practical ways that we can cultivate gratitude in our life. And I think it'll lead to great discussions this week.
I believe so too. If I might add, I mean, I love this last respond point that we have here. Who is someone you can express gratitude this week? I know that, in the holiday season, it can cause a lot of relational tensions with people. And I think it's interesting to know how much how far a thank you can actually take you, right? Like how much, you don't realize how much being told thank you actually means until you don't have it. Like somebody cuts you off on the freeway and they don't say thank you. You know what I mean? It gets a little frustrating.
They don't throw the shaka,
They don't throw the shaka,
What's up with that?
Yeah. And so even as it relates to the closest people to you, sometimes we can get so familiar with people that we fail to express gratitude, whether that be your spouse or your children. And like you're saying about Judah, practically saying thank you to someone, and just to reinforce that relational connection that you have with somebody, especially in a heightened season like this, where it can lead to relational tension. So I know one thing that I'm definitely going to hone in on in small group is just this idea of challenging people to just express gratitude for their spouses, for their children. Because again, we come to group sometimes complaining about our spouses or our children, but just love believes the best, right? And so it's trying to help people find the good things in people and appreciate that to reinforce further relational connection. So
just to add to that, I would want to encourage you as a small group leader to encourage them to be specific about what they're thankful for, because a general thank you is great, don't get me wrong, but I think if we can take it a step further to be specific about what they're thankful for from that person, like thank you for always having a positive attitude. When I'm around you, I can sense my negativity. You remind me that I got to be better and just being more consistent in my life. So thank you for always bringing faith and encouragement. So the more specific you are, I think that deepens the weight of the thank you in the person's life. And so, that's even good. A small group, and this could be an opportunity for people in group to thank one another for, always checking in on me and being texting me, all of these things. It's a great moment for us to solidify some of these relational connections within group with one another too. So any final thoughts as we wrap up today?
No, I mean, just be grateful. There's a lot to be grateful for. I mean, if there's anything that we can be grateful for, it's for our salvation, right? And so it's always constantly pointing people to Jesus. I understand it might be a difficult season for a lot of people, but if we can just point people to Jesus and the gospel, I think you can't help but cultivate a heart of gratitude. So it's almost impossible. So if nothing in group, just remind people of the joy of our salvation.
Yeah.
That well up gratitude in people's
You must
hearts.
be a preacher, because that's what a preacher does. Always got to end with Jesus, right? In all honesty, small group leaders, we want to especially thank you for your willingness to serve and to steward the lives of people. We were talking about earlier that we have over 427 small groups, an all-time high for us, and that's 420 individuals who are committed to other people's growths, who's making time to care for other people. There's no way that we could care for the amount of people that God is sending our way without your willingness to serve and to love people. So we want to thank you, small group leaders. Without you, literally, we wouldn't have a church that impacts people. So thank you so much for your willingness to be used by God in this season. So have a great small group, and happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, y'all.